All right, greetings. So, turn up the video speed. Yeah, I'm thinking about building a Southern Command. I want my piece of wasteland. People are like, well, you can just camp in the wasteland. Why would you buy a place? I want to take you on a little story, a little journey about where I grew up in the beautiful Olympic Northwest, Pacific Northwest, North Olympic Peninsula, about how things used to be and how I can see the same signs everywhere else in America. And why I recommend that if you find a little piece of paradise, you may want to purchase a little piece of it. Yeah. So, Freedom Phil, like, subscribe. Let's get into it. And always turn up the video speed because whatever speed I can talk at, you can listen to me far faster. Let's get into it. So it's like this. I can see some of the same signs in the wasteland that I saw as a kid on the North Olympic Peninsula. In the sense that once upon a time, we could just go camping anywhere we wanted. We just go out there, just, pack it in, pack it out, leave it clean. Don't be a nuisance. And people would just leave you alone. That's the way the wasteland is now. But I can see the signs that it's already starting to go the same way that where I grew up did. I want to go over the reasons and the things that the tactics they'll say that why it happens. Yeah. So, being a kid, I was born in 1980. I saw the tail end of a lot of the freedom up there. The greatest generation and the boomers, man, you guys had it good. You really did. When I was a little younger, I shouldn't say kid, I was a young adult, late teens, early 20s, I talked to some of the old timers and they'd tell me, yeah, back when we were your age, we could drive all the way from Nia Bay to Olympia on back roads. I mean, sure, you had to cross a paved road here and there, maybe go a mile or two down the paved road to get back onto another forestry road, but you could do it all the way there. Now, most of those roads have been blocked off. Most of the connections between these two district areas have been blocked off. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The sensible reasons are the old bridges that were literally logged, giant old growth and big planks, they've fallen apart, and the state sees no reason, state or federal government sees no reason to fix it right now because they're not going in there for timber. Then there's the other reasons. You do have some people that dumped garbage out there. Once the dumps started charging a fee for the dumping, because it used to be free, then people started thinking, well, I don't want to pay for that. That's a pack of smokes, 2 packs of smokes. That'll be 2 packs of smokes, maybe 3. Or, drugs, alcohol, whatever. And so they just dump it out there. They don't want to pay for garbage service. I recycle. Pretty much. I compost and recycle. I only got a small part of trash. And the fact that most, if you're poor, learn your recycling system. Learn how to compost. Plastic's your worst fucking enemy. Light plastic. And heavy plastic's the problem, really. It's a side conversation. But yeah, there's some truth to that. I used to go to some of these places where they already tank trapped the road and said, well, if it's about the garbage being dumped, why didn't they clean up the garbage? You could literally date the last time that road was open based on the trash you would see. You'd be like, oh, yeah, I remember that trend. I remember that was a toy that was on TV. And so wasn't even 10 years ago or 15 years ago that this was an actual normal road. And considering that you would date that toy, so we're talking probably 10 years ago since somebody had drove that road. But they block it off. They decide you don't need to be here. Another reason they'd say was, well, there's people cooking meth or, pot grows out in the middle of nowhere. And there's some truth to that, but truth be known, a lot of that stuff just happens in the cities just as much. And that game's kind of now, thanks to that show Breaking Bad, whenever I see an old RV, I look at it and think to myself, oh, Enterprise, huh? You're like, meth lab. That's made a lot of Winnebagos look like meth labs. But yeah, there was some of that. If you want to know the real reasons, there was the more sinister watermelon environmentalist reasons. Like, for instance, green on the outside, pink on the inside. Translation, you're just trying to kick the people out, control them. Oh, there's an animal here. That's a lot of it's BS. Sure, there's animals, but what does it matter if we're just camped here, mind our own business? Well, that's precious habitat. And they kick you out of these places by gating them up, tank trapping them. And then what are your options to go camping with your family? I mean, there was this campground we used to go to during the winter that was near the Elwha River. I think it was Altair. No, not Altair. It was the Elwha campground because Altair's closed during the winter. And eventually they started charging for winter camping. And they're like, you want $14, $15 a month? And we have a pit toilet and there's not even water here. I mean, sure, there's water on the creeks and the rivers, but I mean, there's no plumbed water. And it's just like what you used to enjoy, you now have to pay a fee for. And so you want to go, for instance, into the national park. How much does that yearly pass cost now? And if you're really gonna travel the country, get the. I think they make a national pass. That'd be the way to do it. Especially if you're a senior. But yeah, how much does it cost just to take you and your kids out? You used to just be able to drive. See that hill right over there? You could drive right up to the top of that hill, and you could camp. There's clear cut, beautiful foxglove blooming that time of the year, and little flowers, spring, early summer flowers. Before things get too dry, you just go over to the slag pile and grab whatever firewood you need. It's great. It's a way of life. And then the government starts being like, we don't want you out here. Yeah. And they start blocking off stuff. Now, some people say a lot of this happened because there was a kid that wrecked on a motorcycle and died ages ago, back in the late 80s, 90s or something like that. And the parents sued Bonneville Power Administration, and the Power Administration said, you know what, screw this. We're going to start gating our roads. And then once that became the trend, people were like, yeah, we're going to do that too. So forestry, DNR, they were a little late to the game on the gating thing, but every private road started gating. First it was cables. Then when cables would get cut, people would put up tank traps. If they wanted to keep the road, they put on these big, massive, full-on gates that have only got more complex over the years. And so they started doing that. And then the forestry was like, yeah, well, I know we made this deal with you, America, saying that, you're going to take your money, tax dollars, and make a jobs program to make all these roads, but we're going to kick you out of here. So if we want to keep the road, we'll put a gate on it. But if we want a jobs program, this is actually what a lot of it is, if we want a jobs program for broke government employees because there's no work, there's no roads to be built or nothing to maintain. Like there's no campgrounds that need maintenance. We're going to basically tear out these roads, and we're going to say it's for environmental reasons. And I could understand that if I went to those same places where I had previously, I used to get, when I lived out in the woods for 4 years, I had a Siberian Husky, and we'd go out walking the 5,000 block. And there were 3 major roads that went into there. And some of those places that had trash in them, I'd walk by that area, and the trash was still there. So the trash that was dumped back there, and then you tank trap the road. You went in there, tore out the culverts, left the trash, left the old ripped up culverts there. Please don't tell me this is about people dumping garbage if you don't even clean up the garbage when you're there and leave the culverts you just tore out. No. It's a jobs program. And your freedom and your ability to go in these areas, they say, it's only good for so long. So I see some of the same signs in the wasteland, in the woods. This area in this rock where this house is, we're in the Rocky Mountains here. It's funny. Over 5,000 feet elevation, you get snow. I personally don't want to deal with the snow in the future. I mean, I like visiting the snow. I don't want to live in it. It's like people that live in St. George and go to Bryan Head. You're like, and if you've never been up to Bryan Head, oh my, there's, what is it, Rock Ridge or Ridge something or other, Ridge View. You go up on that hill and you can see like 2 or 3 small mountain ranges. You see I-15 all the way down. You're like damn near 10,000 feet up, 9 to 10,000 feet up. It's like the top of that hill is, I think, right around 10,000. Yeah, it's a serious elevation change. If you're going to live up there, you got to get used to living up there about a week or two, and then your body acclimates. But I like that. I like visiting the snow. And I like the fact that there's a lot of places that I can go to and camp around here if I wanted to, that I can still just be a free American. But the same signs I saw in Washington, they're happening here. The wasteland is even freer than here. But do I believe here's what's going to happen. Something crazy will happen at some point, or too many people dumping garbage will happen at some point. And I think at Quartzsite, from what I've heard, I've never been down to Quartzsite, they got a good system. They got the dumpsters, they got the pit toilets, and they're making money off of it. So they'll probably start doing something like that, which I actually think is a good idea. The idea that you could pay a yearly fee, like, oh, the seasonal fee for camping, here's the water spigots and here's the pit toilets here and there that we pump out. And they made the local state government makes some money. I'm all for that. But the whole thing of being able to go out and just go out in the middle of nowhere, like Bundy Land or something out there where you're just parked on some little hill like I did for 2 years, during the winters. Yeah, I definitely see that. Them eventually gating all that area off. And I hope it stays open and free. But there are the people that dump their garbage. I walked through many places, did many hikes through the wasteland, and I'd be like, oh yeah, 1970s couch that's nothing but a skeleton up on another area where it looked like, look at it, I'm like, I don't even know how you got an RV all the way up here. You see what looked to be leftover RV stuff, like you could see a turd hose, and you're like, why the hell is this up here? Like maybe it was a meth lab, who knows? That was near the old decommissioned US 91. So that trash had been there for God knows how long. It's only a matter of time, though, before I think some of these places may or may not exist. And I hope it still exists in my old age. But I'm not planning around what may or may not be. I mean, look, if I go back to trucking and I'm living off less than $5,000 a year because no rent, no utilities, this place literally rented out, pays for this place plus all the other two properties. All of them are paid off, so it's just a matter of the basics. The other two properties don't have utilities or anything like that to them, just taxes, and the other one has HOA. So I go back to living very laid-back trucker lifestyle. I got to have something to aim for. So I was thinking Southern Command. And why? Well, because I want my little piece of something. Plus, I want to be close enough to everything down there to where I could literally just be like, oh, well, I want to go into town, go hit up the library. So let's go over some of the criteria I've got just to make it make sense. I want a piece of land that doesn't have anything connected to it. I want to be close to where I can connect to it, or I could punch a well. I'm not sure what the legality is in that area. Some places the farmers own water. They own the water underneath your land, all that. So you got to look into that. But a piece of land where I could eventually maybe build something if I feel like it. But if I never feel like it, I can keep it raw. And why do I want to keep it raw? Because once you hook up to utilities, the water supply, all that crap, then you have a bill forever. That's one of the reasons I did a remodel on this house. I'm really sick and tired of paying for $130 a month for a lot of time water I never drink. And that's just the water. Here's the craziest thing. The water here cost 1,000 gallons is $1.40. I didn't even go through 1,000 gallons last month. Isn't that funny? When I take a shower, I just shower really quickly. I mean, sometimes I just bucket bathe because I like doing it. But yeah, so $1.40 for 1,000 gallons. So what's the rest of the 130? Well, that's water and sewer. I don't have garbage. I just recycle. I recycle and I compost. And once in a blue moon, you do a dump load. If usually it's like plastic or big metal or something. Anything I can recycle, I recycle. Anything I can compost, I compost. That saves me $300 a year. But yeah, I look at that and I think to myself, I don't want to pay these basic utilities. Also, the heating costs, the electricity costs. In the wasteland, my home is solar heated. It's a midnight blue van, so it could be 30 degrees outside, but it's still 56 degrees inside. I'm just chilling, playing video games. I'm cool with that. And then when it gets too hot, I just can go north. I can go up in elevation, up into Utah. I could go up here. I could go back to Western Washington where I got property over there. All I want to do is build a giant elk fence and build a giant garden there. Have a RV parking spot. So in the South, a place that's close enough to a library. So there's a library in every town that I look at. There's got to be a library. Is there a grocery store? There happens to be the place I was looking at. There's a grocery store. Is there a gym with showers? People are like, well, why does that matter? Well, because I don't mind doing, wasteland tactics with a gallon of water in a bucket. I've done that. I'm fine with that. But hey, man, if there's a gym I could go, let's say a perfect morning for an old guy. I hop on my bike. Maybe I take the dog with me. Maybe I don't. Maybe I leave him back at camp / Southern Command. And I go into town and I basically hit up the gym, do a workout, get a shower. Then I go over to the library, maybe download a book, maybe watch a few videos. Like, who knows? Maybe I'll do the $30 a month unlimited data. You can get it down to 25 these days. Maybe I'll do like the $8 cell phone plan with 5 gigs of data. If I'm that close to town, I can just go in. Does the gym have Wi-Fi? So I'm working out, watching some of my favorite content producers. And then I go into town if I need to go buy anything for food. I've got my refrigerator, but of course, being that close to town, unless I need, like if I want to go in and get a lot of stuff, then I'll head into whatever the local county, go to Mesquite or something like that. But otherwise, I could just go buy whatever I need fresh right at the local grocery store and then bike ride home. Hey, I'll maybe do another workout. And, that could be my winter life. Now, how much do you think it's going to cost me for taxes for a piece of property that's basically raw with just some basic improvements? Practically nothing. And I know a lot of you are like, oh, I couldn't live like that. Go live in an RV sometime, like a nice RV. Like actually customize it to where it does everything you need. It makes its own power, water. There's lots of ways you can do with that. Toilets, I just do a composting toilet, and yeah. You could even do one of those dump systems as well. I would use my gray water for watering my plants. I'd use biocompatible soap. What's my taxes on that? Well, I can tell you the property up here outside of town, for the whole year, the taxes on that property is just raw land, beautiful view. You can see this whole town from up there. You can see the river. I could walk down to the boat launch, the reservoir. I could go down there, and it's like $400 a year. So divide that by 12. How much is that? Same thing with the property in the West Coast in Washington. I got beach rights. I got shellfish rights off of that property. We got our own private well, so I've got that covered. I can just go and take 55 gallons a day. That's way more water than I'd ever use. And if I really needed water for gardening, I'll probably just go down to the Duckabush River and fill up. Just fill it up and use that. I'm just recycling. It was just going to go out to the big salty Hoods Canal anyway. So what does it matter? And so basically, that is it's under $60 per month when you figure in the $200 for HOA, and it's actually $110 per lot, so now $220 per year. But yeah, I mean that cost is so low between the HOA and the taxes. So one time of the year I'd be in one place gardening, and the other time of the year I'd be in the other place either just chilling in the wasteland, maybe a little gardening. I'm cool with that. And if I ever decide to do anything with the property, I could always build like a barn dominium or something like that. People say, what are you going to do when you get really old? I don't know. Die. So it's going to happen eventually. But I mean, to me, it's this whole idea of how much money you have to spend just to have what most people consider normal. Like I think houses are okay, but I think they're actually a giant pain in the ass. There's all this maintenance. Then what if somebody, you got to rent them out. You got to deal with people. I don't know. Here's the thing about houses. Go to Home Depot and look at the price of a door, like a decent front door and a back door. Then price out the rest of the doors. Then price out drywall, and you start realizing this is why like those little cabins where they 10 by 20 where you got a 200 square foot under 200 square feet to avoid the laws. Little place, and you're like, yeah, I don't live in that. I live in my RV, and you totally live in the place. You look at that, and you're like, you can do one of those you buy one of those for like $7,000. They'll deliver it. Really well built. You got a place, and you could do the interior. But a house, the cost goes up to the point where you're just like, man, it just feels like all I'm doing is working to pay for this house. And one would argue, well, you make so much money driving truck. Yeah, but just because I make really good money and I can have extra money to invest doesn't mean I want to piss it away on a fucking place. I mean, I got to be real about it. the real estate market, I know you buy something and it's always going up in the long term, but is it going up or is inflation going up? And then there's popularity things where a certain state becomes popular for a while, so it skyrockets, and yeah, I guess we won. But when you look at the cost of real estate, like yeah, sure, I could go down to Texas or Kansas and buy a cheap place for 50 to 150,000, or I could just buy a cheap piece of land and be there for when I want to be there and then drive my vehicle wherever I want to go. I mean, I've even thought about doing a wall tent. Like the joke would be Prius with a wall tent. But I really like kind of the van setup, where you got a van with all the things. I mean, I could potentially start using the battle van again. Where basically I could build a huge solar array on top of the battle van. And it's already got a wood stove in it, a shower stall. It's an apartment on wheels. That's actually what I used to pay off this house. So that's kind of the thinking for the future. Go back to trucking, find me a cheap piece of land in the wasteland, partially for tax reasons as well. No state income tax in that state, just like the North. That's part of what I target for companies. Do you have a place I could park a vehicle in this state and have a post office box in this particular state that has no state income tax? Because why would you want to pay any more than you have to? I mean, hell, if you think about it for a second, let's say you got 7%. You made 100,000. Do you want to give 7,000 to the local state government for what benefits? What do you receive? I believe in charge me when I'm actually using it, if I'm actually using it. But you get to thinking about that for a second. You're like 7,000 times 3 years. There's cheap pieces of property all over America. You could pay cash for that. You're like, oh, there it is, just in what you saved in taxes. So, yeah, I want to get myself my Southern Command and then have my Northern Command, and who knows, maybe someday. And people say, well, why in the Northern Command don't you just build a little place, like get the ultra tough sheds? And the answer for that, to say it, but once you build something, there's always the chance that you'll have some drug addict or just bored teenagers break into your place. And the line when I was talking to the real estate agent was like, well, you just don't leave anything worth stealing. How about I just don't leave anything to be broken into? And I just show up there, put up a wall tent. Or I show up there with my RV, park my RV seasonally, and I garden. And I go hiking and whatnot. If the shellfish are clean, I dig shellfish up, pick the oysters. And when it's crappy, I just go to the other place. I just, like, oh, the cost of fuel. And along the way, I have a blast, take this road, check it out, do some camping. Take a month or two to get to where you're going. Yeah, maybe a month and a half. Just kind of enjoy the way down there. Stay in an area for a day or two, driving over 10, 25 miles, stay in an area, get a feeling for it. That sounds like a good plan for me in the long run. But yeah, this is Freedom Phil. Like, subscribe, take it easy. Honest to God, I think I've done most everything I want to do with this channel. So, hey, y'all have a good one and turn up the video speed.